Do you love whole grain homemade bread and vintage and classic recipes? You are in for a treat as we make this whole grain loaf today. Let's check out a sneak peek of making this bread and then we'll jump right into this fabulous James Beard recipe. Wow, look at these loaves. They're looking fantastic. Can't wait to see how delicious they are. Wow, look at that. So let's get started on our cracked wheat bread, although I have to admit I could not find cracked wheat, so instead of cooking that on the stove, I poured boiling water over some rolled oats, and these have been soaking about 10 minutes. I want to have the same amount of liquid in here. But I am going to add a 1/4 cup of wheat bran, and we also have whole wheat flour. I might be adding a little more of this as the kneading goes on to see if it will take a little bit more of that or not. So this is a tiny bit different of a recipe because I couldn't find the cracked wheat, but it's totally fine. This is a great substitute, but I will include the original instructions in the recipe as well. So here we have a 1/3 cup of warm water, and we're going to be putting two and a quarter teaspoons of active dry yeast in here. I'm just going to swirl it around a little bit. We're going to leave this to the side to kind of proof for a few minutes while we get going on the rest of our recipe. So we are gonna stir together some yummy stuff today. So we have a large bowl here. I have a 1/4 cup of softened butter here. So we're gonna get that in there. And then we're going to add a 1.5 tablespoons of salt. I have kosher salt here. Feel free to use whatever salt you would like. And then we have some honey and molasses. We have 2 tablespoons of each. I really love breads with molasses or honey. Let me know in the comments down below if you love those flavors as well. I think it really lends like a homemade quality to it. It's really nice. And I am really looking forward to having a piece of toast with this. So I think it's gonna be yummy. It's super sticky, but that's all good. Oh, and we have a cup of milk. So we are going to add this in, the cooked oats, or kind of soaked oats. You could also cook some steel cut oats if you would like. I thought I had some of those, but I think I used them all up a while back in a granola recipe. So anyways, we're gonna stir all this together. And then once it is cooled down to lukewarm, then we're gonna continue with the recipe. So before we move on to that, I would love to know in the comments what your favorite bread is. If you make bread at home, if you find it intimidating. I thought it was interesting in this James Beard book. I love to make sourdough. And once I got my starter going, I found it's not too difficult. I mean, it takes time, but he wasn't a huge fan of sourdough. He didn't think it was worth the time, but he did include one sourdough, I think just one recipe in there. So I thought that was interesting. Okay, so we're gonna mix this a little bit more off camera and get this cooled down, although I don't think it's too warm. But our yeast is looking good, so we'll be back in just a moment for the next step. So we are back, and this is cooled down, In fact, I probably should have had it a little bit hotter so the butter melted a little more, but it will get incorporated, no problem. And so we have the bloomed yeast here. So let's get that into our bowl. So nice. And then it says to gradually add some flour. So we have a cup of whole wheat flour here. Let's stir that in first. And then we will get the all-purpose flour in. So we have 4 cups here. Let's stir this really well so we get this, incorporated. Let me know in the comments if you like making bread by hand like this, or if you prefer using either a bread machine or a mixer. I have absolutely nothing against those, but I actually really prefer doing most of this by hand because I can really get a feel for it. The arm workout is great. So let me know which way you like. Once in a while I'll use a dough hook if the recipe calls for a ton of kneading, and this one you probably could use it as well. But most of the time I like doing things by hand just because it causes you to slow down and see what's going on with the recipe. But there is no one right way, in my opinion, so I would love to know what you like to do best. So we're just going to do around a cup at a time. I'm not measuring that out, but here we go. And I want to make sure and get my 1/4 cup of wheat bran in there, just so we have more of the whole wheat flavor since I couldn't find the cracked wheat. But I'm going to try a little harder and look around and see next time if I can find that. But this will still be a lovely recipe, and I think it will definitely act the same way. So now we're getting that butter incorporated. Okay, let's just get the rest of that flour in there. Once we get this incorporated, then we're going to do a lot of hand kneading over here on this rubber mat. I always have at least a 1/2 cup of flour over here for dusting to make sure it doesn't get too sticky. But I like that this makes 2 loaves. I was going to point out that we have our greased 9x5 pans over here. That way you can have plenty of toast for breakfast, which I always feel is essential. Let me know if you love toast. And also you can freeze one of them for a busy week if you regularly make bread and just don't have time, or you can also give it away to a neighbor or a friend. That's always really nice. So yeah, I think it will be awesome. So this is looking pretty good as far as mixing it up goes. So let's get this over here on our board and we'll go to kneading in just a moment. Okay, let's get to kneading this dough. So it says to knead it and add, little bits of flour as needed, but it still should be slightly sticky to have all that nice moisture of those, either the cooked cracked oats or cooked cracked wheat, or the soaked oatmeal, either one. So we want to, what I like to do is just keep sprinkling it little by little so it's not way too sticky to handle. But you don't want to add way too much flour to it either. So just little tiny bits. So I usually kind of just keep folding it in on itself. like that, and it's a little sticky over here, so I'm going to add more flour. And right here we have our buttered bowl, which when we're done kneading, we will turn that in to the bowl and get this going. I should probably set a timer on this, but I can keep an eye on the clock and make sure we're kneading this enough to give it really good gluten structure, as they usually say. So yeah, let me know if you make bread on a regular basis, if it's sourdough or yeast bread or quick breads. They're all wonderful. And usually I make sourdough bagels every week. I put homemade yogurt in them and oats and wheat, but this week I thought I would do these loaves instead and show you guys how this recipe works. Especially because, I have to tell you a story about this book. I had this James Beard bread book a long time ago, and I kind of went on a decluttering spree and got rid of it. So I was so happy to find it again, along with the pasta book, which I didn't know existed, in this nice little set. So the books will always find you again. I do have limited space in the kitchen to keep my books. I keep all my cookbooks in here if possible, except for my afternoon tea cookbooks. I don't quite have enough room for those yet, but I might do some spring cleaning, move things around, get rid of some extra items so that I can have more books in here. And so, yeah, let me know if you would like to see some afternoon tea spreads and recipes. I'm excited to do those very soon, maybe in the springtime. So looks like by the video clock we've been doing this almost 4 minutes. So it's starting to look smoother, but I want to make sure and try to do this for the full 10 to 12 minutes. So I'm going to do a little more kneading off camera, and then I will come back when we're ready to get this proofing. So we are back. I've kneaded this bread or this dough, bread dough, for the full 10 minutes, and it's looking really nice. Nice and elastic and fairly smooth. So it says to make a ball, so I usually kind of turn in all the little edges and form a nice round shape, and then we're going to put it in the buttered bowl. It says to make sure and kind of coat the top in the butter, and then I like to put a nice little towel on this, and then I'm going to show you in just a moment where I keep the dough to have a nice warm place for it to rise. So I always keep the rising dough over here on the back corner of the stove. So this works great as long as you're not doing any cooking for the next hour and a half. But yeah, right by the tea kettle there. So it keeps nice and warm over in this corner. So we'll be back in 1.5 hours to check and get the loaves ready to go. Yay, we are back, and look at that beautiful bread dough. It's been 1.5 hours, so it has risen a lot. We're just gonna punch it down in the middle, which is a really fun part. And then we're going to divide it in half and form our 2 loaves. So I have the greased pans right here. I'm gonna divide this as best I can, and we'll get our loaves formed. I'll do one at a time here. Let me make sure those look, I think I'm gonna donate a little bit more to this one. I think that looks fairly even. Okay. So we're gonna shape up these loaves very nicely, get them ready for the pans, and then they will have another lovely rising session, and we want to make sure that they reach the top of the pan. I'm sorry, I wanted you to see that, sorry. So we have formed this. So what I did is I kind of patted it out. Sorry, I got to talking and I realized it was not showing on camera too well. So I kind of roll it over, and we can kind of roll it up into an oblong shape. Smooth it out as best we can. And then we will place this in the pan. Usually kind of tuck it in the corners. And yeah, we want it to raise up here before we get it ready for the oven. So there'll probably be another hour or so. Let's get our second one going. So if you do make bread, what's your favorite part of the process? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you love vintage recipes and also vintage menus, I'm trying to do more of those at least once a week. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, comment on it. It really helps grow this channel so I can reach more people that love vintage recipes. And I really appreciate you if you are already subscribed and already here. We already reached 250 subscribers and beyond, so we're getting there. Thank you for your support. And we have 2 loaves ready to go. So I'll put the towel over them, give them about another hour, and if they haven't reached the edge here, then we'll give them a little more time. So I will see you in a bit. So now we have a little peek at the risen bread. The dough. It took nearly 2 hours for it to rise this far, and I think it's ready for the oven. So we're gonna get it in there, and I will give you a little peek when it's just about to come out of the oven. It's gonna be delicious. So now that our bread is out of the oven and cooling, I thought I'd show you the cookbook in a little more detail. This is Beard on Bread. It is from 1974, but this looks to be pretty much a mint condition copy that I got at the antique store. I don't think the person really used it at all. So this is, the recipe we're using, the cracked wheat bread, although I did put oats in there and modified it slightly. But there are 100, I think, bread recipes in here. There are a lot of special recipes in here, even baking powder and soda breads. So a lot of favorites, and I am so happy to have this book again. I will not declutter this book again, I promise. But one of the things I love are the details, all the little drawings in here. So yeah, this is a huge, huge treasure, and I can't wait to share more recipes from this as well as his pasta book. So Let me know if that sounds fun to you. And I will see you in the family tasting of this yummy bread. Wow, these loaves look so good. I'm going to let them stay in the pans for just a moment before I turn them out here onto the racks. But I don't know if you can hear that, but it sounds hollow when you tap it. So let's try getting one out here on the rack. Ooh, perfect. That looks like a good loaf of bread. I cannot wait to try this with the family, so stick around to see what everybody thought. But these turned out really lovely. I cannot wait to see how they are for toast. One of my favorite things ever, so yum. Stay tuned for more. Yay, we are here to try the delicious James Beard, well, cracked wheat bread, but I didn't have that. So there's wheat and oats in here.
Sounds good.
And some wheat bran, I think it was.
Smells good. The fresh bread always smells really good. Whoa.
Nice bread.
I'm approved.
Really good
Good texture.
flavor, and it's nice and soft.
Can't wait to toast it actually.
Wow.
Check out how soft this is.
This is pretty amazing.
Oh, thank
I
you.
would eat it plain, but it's going to be amazing with butter on toast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that would be
I want to toast the rest of mine.
Let's toast
And
it.
maybe have more. Okay, definitely try the recipe, guys. Enjoy.